Let's bring in the CEO of Valley National Bank, Ira Robbins. Ira, great to see you again. What's going on with mortgage demand? Any signs of a slowdown lately?
Not at all. Activity continues to be very, very strong. If you look, as we said earlier, year over year, our activity is up about 30%, but the purchase market continues to be strong. About 50% of our originations today are within the purchase market compared to about 40% a year ago. Now, that has implications for not just the purchase market, but for the residential rental space as well, when you think about the affordability impact of it. So the multifamily lenders that we provide funding to, those seem to be strong as well.
How important is this business segment to Valley overall? And how do you kind of balance allocating capital here in a very competitive space, which I can imagine it is, with other verticals that you're also involved in?
There's a lot of opportunity today in the marketplace today. The interest rate environment as well as demand is driving a lot of the real estate activity. That said, with the influx of fintech and all sorts of other changes that are happening from a macro environment, there is tremendous opportunity when we think about delivery channels from a customer experience perspective, as well as from an employee deliverance approach. And as a result, we seem to be getting into many new industries, as we just announced yesterday, a Valley Pay for the cannabis industry.
Ira, it's Dom. I think when we cover many of these stories, whether your industry or otherwise, we talk about personal recoveries and demands and business recoveries and demand. Are you saying the same kind of thing on the business side of things with regard to construction loans or to business loans, the commercial side of things versus the retail banking and mortgage lending side?
I think the demands definitely come back across the entire sector today. So many of our commercial borrowers are doing real well. Specifically, when you think about the manufacturers, their ability to provide price increases is something that they haven't had before when it comes to the pricing power. And as a result, the margins that they're making today are greater than what they've been in a very long time.
Ira, I'm also curious if you can talk a little bit about the acquisition and some of the trends that you're seeing. I believe it kind of exposed you a little bit more to the venture capital world, the world of startups. And you yourself have talked about how your bank needs to be more than just a zip code driven business these days.
I think it's really true. We need to look at ourselves more as a national organization, providing services to customers, not just based on where they live from a zip code perspective, but how they think about doing business. One of the acquisitions that we just announced was Bank Leumi, with an approach to get into a different segment of business that we aren't in today from a technology perspective. I want to get back maybe just a touch about what we did with the Valley Pay within the cannabis banking space. There's an opportunity where you look at a cash-driven business today, and there's really no ability to serve that segment today. So how do we have, as an organization, have the ability to come in, provide a digital experience from a credit perspective to allow for payments that are predominantly focused on cash today? So organizations like us have tremendous opportunity today. We're not too large and we're not too small.
There's a lot of stuff happening right now, Ira, in the interest rate market. Some of it historical, very unique in terms of long-end bonds and their yields right now versus shorter-term, shorter maturity bonds. Is there anything about the current interest rate environment that kind of gives you pause or maybe makes you feel a little bit more cautious about your business in the coming months and years?
The interest rate environment is definitely something that we focus on a lot here. I guess I am a little bit more concerned about what happens, especially with regard to whether Governor Powell gets reelected or not. That said, when we think about the interest rate environment and the inflation, I think it's a real problem for us. Components of it may definitely be transitory, but when you look at what's happening from a wage perspective, when you look at what's happening from a supply side perspective, the infrastructure bill that you just talked about, spending for climate, these are real inflationary pressures that are not going to just disappear. At Valley alone, our salaries, the wages have increased 11% since the beginning of the year. This is not transitory.